session. Now we're going to have a follow-up of 6 contributions, and each contribution is 12 minutes. And so we start and we have a discussion by the end. So the next contribution is from Katarzyna Wojnar from University of Warsaw, and the title is From Counting Sparrows to Community Urban Planning, Lessons from Citizen Science in Warsaw.
Hello everyone, I will try to share my screen right now. Okay. Okay, thank you very much for inviting me to this webinar. I would like to share some experience on citizen science in Warsaw, and not being very proficient in the subject, I have consulted many people who are really great citizen scientists. This is my little attempt to maybe categorize these different types of citizen activities and scientific activities. But first of all, I would like to draw a context of this presentation. So what happens in Poland right now, maybe some of you know in media, maybe some of you don't, but what we have is a very polarized society. Our liberal model of transformation has increased the polarization and inequality, and it has its metropolitan aspect. Here you can see the map of the Polish president elections, and in yellow you can see the votes or the support for the liberal candidate, and in blue you can see the support for the more conservative or populist candidate. So as you can see, there is a clear metropolitan versus the rest of the country clash, as well east and west clash. And this is actually very visible in the city of Warsaw itself. It causes a lot of political and social tension. We have a conservative government with most of the cases liberal metropolitan governments. We have some clashes between so-called Warsawers and newcomers, although I suppose these categories are quite fluid. And then we have a problem of urban sprawl and spatial chaos. And so the citizen science is actually very much motivated by this polarized situation, by these tensions, and probably more hot topics or hot problems that come out of this overall situation. While thinking about citizen science, I had the need to categorize it to some extent. Well, for me, citizen science seems like it should be political, and I wonder to which extent it's independent and to which extent it might be actually idealistic. It comes from a social need, it comes from a group need. These are my question marks. I suppose when putting citizen science on the overall methodological and let's say academic map of doing science, I would say this is a more normative approach, a more applied or even action research. It's very often based on crowdsourcing and big data, as it was mentioned already. There is also a kind of DIY culture, to what my speakers said, with whom I consulted my presentation. However, there is a big question of validity, reliability, and also replicability of the citizen science. And so these would be my researcher or academic-based researcher question marks when it comes to citizen science. Citizen science can also be placed in the context of social participation ladder. I'm sure you know that ladder, or some of you know that ladder. And although it seems like it would locate itself on the highest level, I think sometimes it might not be that very high, because sometimes the citizen aspect of these type of projects is only supplying the data. So we don't really have this upper level control of the whole process and impact. So I categorized all the cases and all the examples of citizen science into 3 categories. And first of all, what seemed mainstream and had the biggest range would be the university-driven citizen science. And here in Poland, this first example is the Polish example. So it was developed at the University of Wrocław. However, it's the oldest case I could find. So it was started almost over 40 years ago, and it's still ongoing. So it's about the title, Counting Sparrows. People are counting birds' nests, and they should know they need to have a basic orientation in ornithology to do that. And firstly, they will filling up paper forms like the one you can see. And then it, of course, was digitalized. Some other examples of it is the Laser Discoverers project, and it's financed by the Polish Ministry of Science. So it's within the research funding framework. And it also has very strong, let's say, research or academic validity. It was targeted at pupils and university students to collect data to look for important historical and heritage places. The other more international program is the program Globe, and it's targeted at students and pupils. A lot of schools are able to participate in that. A co-funder is a Polish National Fund for Environment Protection and Water Management. So we can see here a sectoral agency being a part of this international project. And the pupils help to supply the database that is worldwide. And it also has been going on for 20 years. So it's a very thorough project, I would say. Another more recent project that is still going on, and I think next year it's going to be finalized, is the MammalNet project. It's just a case, an example of a project that is financed by the European funds, and 4 countries partake in it. And I think this one kind of checks all the boxes. So there is an application, there is a mobile app for it to enable data collection. It's targeted both at professional scientists, but also it's targeted at students, pupils, but also people who enjoy going outdoors, are nature photographers, or even are hunters and fishers, or environmentalists. As you can see, this project is trying to target a lot of groups that might not really respect or like each other very much. There are some pros and cons of this approach. I think it's academically, it has a strong academic foundation. However, to which extent these projects are financially sustainable? Some of them are, but some of them proved to actually be over when the financing stopped. And I was just wondering to which extent they are applicable to urban policies. Then I would say there is a category of city-driven citizen science. And in Warsaw, we have some examples. I think the one that is most renowned and impressive and has got a lot of awards is an online portal, but also mobile application, 1915. Is the application when you take a picture of a problem, you can scroll and categorize it, and then you can pin it in place. So you can give it a GPS location, And then it gets sent to the center, and people who work there, they forward your claim or the problem to an appropriate office. And the case gets the numbers. So you as a citizen are able to follow your case, which I think is very motivating to keep using this application. The city advertised the application with by asking people, yeah, do complain, to motivate people to use the thing which is considered like a national feature. People are always complaining. Now you can make it, actually make a change. But people can also not only complain, but do something positive, like suggest a place where a tree should be placed. There's also an open data initiative commissioned by the city council, but implemented by an NGO. And this is just an example of translation of the website and what categories of data you might find there. Another, maybe not very obvious source of kind of, I would say, civic science is the civic budget, which shows the urban policy, which proves to show urban policy agenda white spots. And these are the main white spots that over the course of 5 to 10 years have proven to be ignored by the urban policy in Polish cities. Okay, so how can we evaluate this type of civic science? I would say it's tailored to policy agenda and politically valid, therefore. It's tailored to the governance structure, so the results are easy to apply. However, I think it also might be prone to political interest, and that was actually the case that the city council workers would mention, that it can easily be dominated by trolls and some lobbying groups. In Warsaw specifically, we had a problem with car parking people. So these tools can also be used by people who are not progressive and don't really share civic values. I'm reminded of the time frame here. So over to our last category. So the citizen-driven citizen science. First example from Warsaw would be a social bike lane audit. Zielone Mazowsze, Green Mazovia, it's the name of the region here in Warsaw, used the bike users and asked them to make a bike lane audit. And the success story of this project is that it has been mainstreamed. The NGO representative became a new coordinator for bike transport, and now this is a mainstreamed practice which has been incorporated by the city council. Another example is Open TreeMap by the initiative Code for Poland, Koduj dla Polski, where people could actually prove whether the municipality data on trees were true. And here you have some details about how it was done. And then it was also incorporated by the city council and became one of the formal projects of the Warsaw Greenery Department. And there's another case, which is a part of urban movements and watchdog activity. It's the organization City is Ours. What they are making, it's their own words, is a little bit controversial. It's based on happening. What they want to produce is media-friendly content, and their success is based on pilot projects. So when they see a problem, they try to make a solution, which is a small project, and then mainstream it as the urban policy. And they have, in fact, been, they are very recognizable, they have been successful, and they also got into the city council last local vote. So they are behind many initiatives. And the final example is the community management model for the colony of wooden Finnish houses, which is which has a prime location in Warsaw. And at some point, the city council wanted to tear it down and locate more prestigious functions over there. And the community decided that they didn't want to do it and that it should be open for the people. There should be NGOs who provide high quality, democratic, culture, science, urban gardening activities. So they managed to do it, I think, very much thanks to the high human capital of people who were involved in this activism. And they have actually managed to provide a democratic bottom-up planning for this area. However, there are also some questions in terms of the citizen-driven citizen science. Well, it is recognizable. Sometimes it has high level of social support. It might be very innovative and visionary and progressive, and it's often applicable by design. However, is it reliable and sustainable? It might be, it's not that clear. On the other hand, I can see that it might be prone to political controversy. So it might cause resentment on the governance side, to put it very mildly. And sometimes it's criticized for advocating basically middle-class values. So,
sorry, Katarzyna, it's almost time. If you can.
Okay, so my conclusion is that these three are in fact complementary approaches. And the university is somewhere in the background in all of these initiatives. And I think what could be done is to motivate researchers to actually do it, because as a researcher, I'm sort of paid to teach and I'm evaluated by my publications. The third mission is not really there. Trans-sectoral and multidisciplinary approaches are the only approaches that actually provide valid solutions and information. Yeah, and basically, if these results are to be implemented, they need to be designed in a way that corresponds to the governance structure. Otherwise, they are just pure knowledge, which is not able to be in any way implemented. Okay, thank you very much. And I would also like to thank all my contributors that enabled me to prepare this presentation. Thank you very much.